We all have heard of the punishment of being buried alive, whether in series or movies, but did you know that such a punishment actually did existed and happened to people throughout history? This punishment was called immurement, or buried alive. Immurement was widely used in various parts of the history, like in ancient Rome, India, and Middle Ages. Immurement, also known as living entombment, has long been a terrible type of punishment in which a person was imprisoned in a small space with no way out. A person may, for example, be packed inside a locked coffin or a wooden box, or possibly brick walls are built around them from which they cannot escape. Normally, an immured person is left in that place until he or she dies from thirst or hunger. In circumstances where a person is buried alive, breathing difficulty could be the cause of death. Immurement is a centuries-old practice that can be seen on practically every continent. Immurement was often utilized as a kind of capital punishment, with a slow death serving as justice for a specific offense. The second use of immurement, which was equally horrifying and brutal, if not more distressing, was for human sacrifice, with the belief that doing so would bring good fortune to those who performed the sacrifice. The term immure is derived from the Latin terms in immurus, which mean in or into and wall, respectively. The word derives from the medieval Latin word immurare, which literally means to shut up behind walls. Given the Latin roots of the term, what better location to start the trip through the history of immurement than ancient Rome? Immurement in Rome. Immurement was first used in the Roman Empire to punish a class of priestess known as the Vestal Virgins. The Vestals were girls from respectable Roman families who were thought to be devoid of mental and physical flaws. They had accepted a stringent celibacy vow and dedicated to keeping a sacred fire in honor of Vesta, the goddess of home and family. If a Vestal virgin violated her vow of celibacy, she was punished with death and buried in the city. Spilling the blood of a Vestal was banned, and under Roman law, no one was to be buried within the city, so the Romans had to become creative. Vestal's executioners would dig a little underground vault for her, usually including a couch and a modest bit of food and water. The Vestal would be led inside the vault and left to die a prolonged, agonizing death. In the Middle Ages, the Roman Catholic Church punished nuns and monks who violated a vow of chastity or promoted heretical thoughts in a similar fashion. Unlike the virgin Vestals, these disgraced nuns and monks were to be imprisoned in a tomb for a little longer period of full isolation rather than dying within days. The punished, known as vade in pacem, or go into peace, would be cut off from the outside world, with just their food being dropped to them through a small opening. While it is easy to dismiss painful capital punishment as a thing of the past, immurement has been utilized far more recently. Accounts of immurement as recent as the early 20th century have been documented in Mongolia and what was once the Persian Empire, now Iran. Immurement in modern times. One of the first descriptions of immurement in Persia came from a gem dealer named Jean-Baptiste Tavernier in the 17th century, who described stone coffins on the plains with thieves imprisoned up to their necks. Tavernier stated that the men's heads were left uncovered, not out of kindness, but to expose them to the injury of the weather and assaults of the birds of prey. Similar cases of immurement have been documented in Mongolia as late as 1914, with people imprisoned in wooden crates that prevented them from properly sitting or laying down. Only a small hole might allow them to stick their heads or arms out and take in any food or water offered by a kind executioner. Immurement in human sacrifices. Immurement is troubling enough, but its application as a form of human sacrifice in building construction is arguably even more disturbing. Bodies entombed in buildings and bridges dating back to medieval times have been reported and discovered around Europe. Several folk songs refer to the usage of immurement as a human sacrifice to solve problems in a construction project or to give it strength. One such example is the Serbian poem The Building of Skadar, which tells the story of a worker who must shut up his bride while building a fortress. Most troubling, however, was the documented usage of immurement in Germany, where children were occasionally used as human sacrifices, with the belief that a child's innocence would make a castle's foundation indestructible. Immurement was also alleged to have been utilized in the construction of churches, including one at Wilmnitz, a district of the German town Putbus. The construction of these churches, shortly after Christianity was introduced to the area, was fraught with difficulties. Rather of addressing the root cause of such issues, blame was placed on the devil, and the immurement of a kid in churches was proposed as a suitable treatment. Unfortunately, physical evidence attests to this practice in several locations across Europe. Accounts from the 1800s concerning the act of demolition of a bridge in Bremen, Germany, revealed the discovery of a child's skeleton in the structure's foundation. An adult skeleton was discovered inside the walls of a church in Holsworthy, England, in 1885. This technique was not confined to human victims. The Brothers Grimm wrote about animal sacrifices in several German and Slavic folktales, such as the Danish tradition of immuring lambs beneath built altars or immuring live horses as part of a protective ritual when establishing a new churchyard. Other legends include animals such as pigs, hens, and dogs being immured for a variety of reasons, most of which have a protective or symbolic purpose. Immurement, whether as a form of lethal punishment or human sacrifice, can only be described as an example of unimaginable brutality that many societies have engaged in for far too long. Well, so here was the cruel punishment of immurement. If you want to see more cruel human punishments in history like this, then do subscribe to my channel, Medieval Mind, and make sure to watch my other videos as well.